Welcome to the first edition of Crash Talk Fantasy Football with your host, Ben Lynch.
I'm Jarett Hackney.
And I'm AJ Lally.
Today we'll be talking all things fantasy football, starting off with top performers of the week. Our first player of the week will be Derrick Henry, coming off an absolute 2-week heater, 35 points against the Dallas Cowboys. Going up against Buffalo, put up 43.9, capping it off rushing 24 times for 199 yards and a touchdown, adding 10 yards with 3 receptions on the day. How insane is that?
It's pretty insane.
It's amazing.
Another top performer was Justin Fields. He played Indianapolis this week, passed for over 300 yards, had a passing touchdown, 10 rushing attempts, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Pretty good week out of him.
And our third player was Jordan Love, coming back off of his injury that he sustained in the first week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And he dropped 28 fantasy points, and he went 32 for 54, passing for 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which kind of lost him a bit of points. And I think he did pretty amazing overall.
I think someone we definitely have to talk about. He didn't make our top 3 or our picks, but Kenneth Walker III, you got to give him a little shout out. 3 touchdowns in a return from an oblique injury last week. I think he'll have decent upside against the Giants. I think he's going to pop off. I'd start him if I were you.
Another top performer from this week was Jared Goff, going 18 for 18, throwing a perfect game.
292 yards with 2 touchdown passes. Fantasy owners are happy with him this week. Let's talk our teams, all right? How are we doing in our leagues this year, boys? Jarrett, what about you?
I'm in an 8-man league with my family.
All right.
I'm currently 3-1. So
Okay.
I'm not doing horrible.
I like it. What's your team looking like?
I got a good amount of injuries, but right now I'm going into week 5. I have Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, Christian Kirk, James Conner, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Rashid White, Tyler Bass, and Dallas defense.
I don't know about Rashad White this week. I think, bad matchup against the Falcons for him. He's getting lots of his carries taken by Bucky Irving. Falcons do have, I believe, the 4th best run defense in the league this year. So, fantasy managers, I would not start Bucky Irving or Rashad White this week. So, currently, I am 3-1 in a 10-man league. Second place behind Seabass, who is 4-0. My team so far is Jordan Love, Nico Collins, Maserati Marv, Alvin Kamara, Jerome Ford, Kyle Pitts, Jawan Jennings in the flex.
I'm in a 10-man league. My record is 2-2. I'm placed number 5. I'm on a 2-week winning streak right now, so that's good. My quarterback is Dak Prescott, and my running backs, I got Jonathan Taylor and Jordan Mason, who've been great pickups. I don't know, somehow Jonathan Taylor didn't get drafted in this league, so I picked him up off of waivers as soon as the draft ended because I didn't realize he wasn't on the board.
See, that is absolutely absurd,
I
not
know.
taking Jonathan Taylor with the streak that he's been on this year. That's crazy to me.
And then my wide receivers have been really good to me this year. I got Chris Godwin and Justin Jefferson. And for tight end, I got Brock Bowers. And then in my flex this week, I have Chris Olave, who, honestly, I thought he would be performing a little bit better this year, but he hasn't really been getting that many targets. So he's kind of been a little bit of a letdown, but we'll make it work.
Solid receivers on that. Justin Jefferson has single-handedly made me throw my phone across my house before when I lost by 3 points after being up 32, and he put up a fantastic week. I almost shattered my screen.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, I'm glad I have him on my team because I'd hate to go against him. On my kicker, I got Brandon Aubrey, and then I got Ravens defense, which I might have to switch out for the waivers.
You guys been letting air that thing out for you. Who has your quarterback's been this year?
For me, it's been Dak Prescott, who honestly has been doing pretty all right for me.
Gulp.
Again, week 3 against the Ravens, he did really good. He went 28 for 51, passed for 379, had 2 passing touchdowns, and he honestly did a lot for me. He also got a rushing touchdown that game, which added some more fantasy points.
Sadly, I've been playing Kyler Murray every week, waiting for him to do good, except for week 2, which I sat him, and he got 28 points. But he just hasn't been having the season that I think he should be having right now.
Going back to you, AJ, talking about Dak Prescott going, 28 for 51? You talked about a good week. The poverty of Dak Prescott is that he can pass 51 times and still have a 54% completion. I mean, that is horrendous.
Well, that's just the Cowboys for you.
That is the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, not been having it lately. Not been having it.
Okay, so Devontae Adams and the Raiders currently aren't on good terms. The Raiders openly said that they were willing to trade him for at least a second-round pick and some more trade compensation, which I think is absurd because Devontae Adams is definitely a first-round pick type of receiver.
Yeah, but you have to think the output coming there with Gardner Minshew throwing to him probably isn't going to be top tier. I mean, that guy blows.
Yeah, but it's just the talent in general because he isn't the oldest, but he certainly isn't the youngest anymore. So, but his top choices for getting traded to is the Cowboys. They're up there. The Jets are up there, and I think like one of the favorites I want to see him go to, sadly, is the Chiefs. As a Niners fan,
I would love to see that.
As a Niners fan, I'd hate to say it, but I think him on the Chiefs would just be amazing for Patrick Mahomes' legacy, as well as Devontae's, because he's only really had one good QB throughout his entire career, which is Aaron Rodgers. So,
as a Chiefs fan here, I would just like to say I wholeheartedly agree with you, AJ. After Patrick Mahomes on Sunday I marked the time, one of the worst days of my life, 1:32 p.m., managed to throw a pick and take out the knees of our best receiver on the team all in one play. I'm very upset, and I would love to see Devontae on the squad.
I agree. What about you, Jarrett? Do you think him going to the Kansas City Chiefs would be his best option, or do you think he should go to any other team?
I think that's his best option, but I wouldn't be surprised him going to the Jets just so he can reunite with Aaron Rodgers.
That's a good point.
Listen, but what you have to think about in this situation is, would he rather go to arguably a runner for the greatest QB of all time? I don't believe that Devontae Adams would want to go to Aaron Rodgers, who will be in a retirement home in 1 to 2 years, and catch passes from him when he could go catch passes from one of the greatest QBs to ever do it.
Well, I think at the end of his career, Patrick Mahomes will be the best quarterback of all time. Better than Brady.
That's not ridiculous. That is a great take.
Better than everyone.
Let's go to sits and starts for this week. What are we thinking for our sits and starts? I have very strong opinions about the Thursday night football game this week, starting Bucky Irving or Rachaad White against the Falcons, who their defense has allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs this year. I don't have faith in either of them. Bucky Irving, love the guy. Really shifty runner, can make some big plays, but I think he's going to get shut down.
I think a must-start player that you have to start on your fantasy team this week would have to be Jordan Mason if you picked him up. He's going against the Cardinals this week, who is ranked 29 versus running backs, and they've averaged 28.73 fantasy points per week for running backs. So I think you definitely should start him because I think he's going to have a great game. It's a divisional game against the Cardinals, so I think it's going to be pretty heavy run game.
Speaking of breakout players with sits and starts, Jawan Jennings. I picked him up off waivers. He's been decent for me, but I would not start him week 5. Cardinals have only allowed 4 touchdowns to wide receivers this year, with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel potentially closer to coming back from their injuries. I think Jawan Jennings, well, he'll be good. I think he'll put you up 9 to 12 points. Shouldn't be a breakout player for you this week. Someone that, I have put a lot of faith in this year, taking him in, I believe, the 3rd round, which honestly, steal. Nico Collins, been so good to me this year. 489 receiving yards. Going up against the Bills this week, though, could be a tough matchup. They've only allowed 340 yards this season to wide receivers. I mean, I have faith in Nico. I think he's going to make some snags. So, it's Nico Collins. He's staying on my starting roster, but we'll see what happens.
So, for my league, in my waivers currently, I have Justin Fields sitting there. But I probably am not going to pick him up, but I think if he is in your waivers in your league and you don't have like Jaden Daniels or something, I think you should definitely pick him up as a starting QB because he's doing amazing for Pittsburgh right now. He's ranked number 6 among QBs, and coming off of a 31-point fantasy game off the Colts, he passed 22 for 34, 1 passing touchdown, and 55 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. So I think that the Steelers know that he's going to be their franchise QB from now on. Russell Wilson is not going to get any playing time. Justin Fields is their guy. So I think that him going against next week, he's going to be going against the Cowboys. I still think he's going to do good, especially because the Cowboys haven't been doing that amazing. So I think that you should pick him up.
Another quarterback, if he's available, I would 100% pick up Sam Darnold. Maybe not start him this week because he's going against a very good New York Jets defense. But if you need a quarterback, he has thrown for over 23 out of the last 4 games. So if you need a quarterback, I would highly suggest picking him up.
All right, talking about waivers, someone I think is a must pick up if you need more depth for your wide receivers, rookie Ladd McConkey from the LA Chargers. Put up a strong showing week 1 against Las Vegas, 15 points. Kind of fell off after the last 2 weeks. 7 points against Pittsburgh, 5 points against Carolina, not the best. Broke out against Kansas City, 18 points. Showed some big playmaking ability, has the potential to be a high-value wide receiver on the Chargers, who, let's be honest, pretty poverty.
But they do have a bye week, week 5. So
Yes, so I look for him week 6, week 7.
Some advice I have for new fantasy players, new fantasy managers. I think that if you're below 500 right now, it's just the start of the season, but if you're below 500, you should seriously consider trading and waivers because those in the long term, they will do you good as long as you make the right trades. Some players that I might try to trade for this year, I like Marvin Harrison a lot. I think that Kyler Murray is going to target him a lot more this year. He's still really young, and he's obviously amazing. So I think you should trade for him.
Let's talk people that I strongly dislike.
Okay.
Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, I draft you every year. I think, hey, this is going to be his year. He's going to break out. Then you drop a donut for me this week. Kyle Pitts, I do not like you, okay? You are going to get dropped. I'm going to trade for Dallas Goedert. Tight ends, not the most important, but, usually you're putting up 5 to 10 for me a game, which is solid. I still won by 80 points this week because my team is the greatest to ever do it. But when you drop a donut, I demand excellence from my fantasy team, and that is something that I don't like.
not going to lie, don't have him anymore. I did trade him away, but Sam Laporta. Drafted him in the 4th or 5th, I believe.
You took a tight end in the 4th or 5th round. Jarrett, what are we doing?
I think tight end that high is kind of crazy.
I got Kyle Pitts in the 7th round.
You also got to think, last year, they gave him a lot more goal line catches. They haven't really given him any this year. He hasn't even scored a touchdown this year.
He's a tight end.
Yeah, they last year they gave him so many on the goal line. So
that was last year.
We're cutting this part out for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely cutting this part out.
No.
Someone that I do like, someone that I strongly like, at least coming into this week. He's been a little patchy, but Jerome Ford is on my bench right now, and he has some possibility, all right? He's led the Browns in rushing against the Raiders week 4 in a loss, but he should remain their primary backfield threat against the Commanders, bottom 10 in fantasy points per game allowed to running backs. I think he has strong upside going into this week.
A player this year that I've been strongly underwhelmed by, I mean, I have him in one of my leagues, but this is one of my throwaway leagues. Like, this really isn't that important to me. But Tyreek Hill, he has not been performing well at all this year except for week 1 when he had 7 receptions for 130 yards and 1 touchdown. But other than that, he's been getting, below 10 every other week other than the first week. He's got below 10 fantasy points, which I think is absurd considering the fact that he was the leading wide receiver last year in receiving yards.
Speaking of Tyreek Hill, I mean, AJ, I love the points that you're bringing up, going from the top receiver last year into what he is now, which is just pathetic. But you have to take a look at who is throwing him the ball. Huntley, are you serious? He had 96 passing yards last week. Like, what are we talking about? I would put AJ on the field, and he could probably throw more completions than Tyler Huntley. The guy sucks. Happy for Tyreek Hill. He put out today a statement. I don't know if he was talking about QBs, which would be fine for him, or actually him leaving the Dolphins. Something about a big trade incoming. I would love to see him back in Kansas City Red.
I agree with you, Ben. I think that definitely there is a QB issue going on over there, especially because Tua's out with another concussion. But then again, he was the top receiver last year in receiving yards. I believe he has the talent, even with a terrible QB like Tyler Huntley, I think he still has the opportunity and the talent to go for at least like 100 yards, maybe every other game. I get maybe not every game, but I think that he definitely should be producing a lot more than he has been this year.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but like we just have to think about this. If you're a defense playing against the Miami Dolphins, you're thinking three things. Let's lock down A-Chain, let's lock down Raheem Mostert, and let's keep Tyreek Hill from running the deep ball. Like, it's hard when you have a guy that can't put the ball where you want to and you're getting double covered every single play. Like, there's just no way you're making that production. It doesn't matter if you're the best in the league.
Yeah, I agree. And that also helps defenses, go against Miami just because, you have to worry about one less thing with Tyreek.
Personally, if I'm a smart fantasy manager, I mean, I have the New York Jets, and I'm very happy with their defense, so I will be keeping them. But if you are really struggling and you're going week by week on defense, I would just pick up whoever's going to play the Miami Dolphins because, I mean, that should be automatic for you.
Me personally, I would pick up whoever's playing the Giants because Daniel Jones is not the best quarterback.
No, he is not. I mean, Jaden Daniels, what a fantastic year. He had a great first week, kind of slowed down the second week against the Giants, which was very surprising. Only put up 13 points. But, I mean, he's making a comeback against Cincinnati, 36 points. What a game from him against Arizona, 26. Can't wait to see what he does against Cleveland this week.
I agree, especially because he's been so consistent running the ball. He's got a rushing touchdown every game except for the Giants, where he slowed down a bit. He got 2 in the first week, which I think is crazy. I believe he's on pace to beat Lamar Jackson's record and rushing yards for a QB, which I think is crazy, considering the fact that it's his rookie year. So he has a lot of talent.
A lot of talent from that guy. Someone, QB, that I really like this year. I had him for a little bit, but with Jordan Love as my number one option, I'm just not going to play anyone else. We got to talk about Baker Mayfield. I mean, Baker Mayfield is a guy that if you're really looking for a QB, he gets the ball, he goes, hike, gets the pigskin in his hands, and he's looking downfield for a 60-yard bomb. What's a short pass? Baker Mayfield doesn't know. That's why he's so inconsistent, though. He could go from putting up 10 points, which I believe he did in week 3, either week 2 or 3, to doing what he did this week. Having about 36 points or so and putting up 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, 2 passing and 1 rushing. I mean, that's absolutely insane. I just think for me, he's too inconsistent.
I agree. I have Chris Godwin on my team, and I really like what Baker Mayfield's doing, targeting Chris Godwin and Mike Evans a lot. So he's got me a lot of good fantasy points, so shout out to Baker for that.
Yeah, I hope that guy succeeds. I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan. I think what Cleveland did to him was absolutely disgusting, and, I have high hopes for him in Tampa. Speaking of Mike Evans, where does Mike Evans come from every single year? Managed to be so solid, even in his old age. Just comes out and puts up performances. Definitely struggled. First week, 23 points, great. Second week against Detroit, 7 points. Going into Denver, 3 points. What are we doing? Finally got it back together against the Eagles, put up another 23-point game. I mean, I think this guy has huge upside potential.
Yeah, I agree. Mike Evans is probably the most consistent NFL wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, besides those last 2 weeks, week 2 and 3, that sucked.
Per season, he's gotten so many 1,000-yard seasons. It's honestly crazy to me. He's such a consistent wide receiver year-round. Last week, he did amazing. He had 8 receptions for 94 yards and a touchdown, which got him 23 fantasy points. And I think he's really going to start to pick it up, especially coming off of a game like that against Philadelphia. So I recommend that you could trade for him, but probably not. I wouldn't do it because there's not really a guarantee.
All right, we got to move on now. So going into our final segment of the day, let's go with hot takes.
Okay, I got a hot take. James Cook for the Buffalo Bills. I really think that you should start sitting him for the next couple weeks. He went against 3 terrible teams his first 3 weeks: Cardinals, Dolphins, and the Jags, which he had decent games, 13 points week 1, 28 week 2, 18 week 3. But when he went against the Ravens, who have a pretty good defense, and they're a good team, he dropped a whopping 5 points. And next week he's going against the Texans, and then the week after he's going against the Jets. I think that these are just lucky games he's having the first 3 weeks. I don't think that he's really going to perform as well in the next couple weeks because he's finally going against good teams, and that's just the Buffalo Bills in general. I think that they're going to have a whole rough 2 weeks starting now, and I don't believe that you should start him.
All right, here's a hot take coming from the Green Bay Packers. Let's talk Dontavian Wicks. I mean, he gets in there. Jordan Love loves to throw this guy the ball. I mean, he loves to target this guy. I think that he should be a high upside, high priority receiver going into the next few weeks, and I think that you need to pick him up.
So this isn't directly about fantasy, but my hot take is that the Chiefs will three-peat this year
I love that take.
because they have still a great
that.
offense, even though, Travis Kelce is getting a little bit older and not getting as much receptions as he usually does. I still think they'll three-peat because they have the best quarterback of all time.
But you have to think about it. I mean, Travis Kelce managers in fantasy have just been absolutely devastated from his production this year. But honestly, I would not drop him after this week with so many of our receivers out, especially Rasheed Rice and Isaiah Pacheco, hitting the IR. I really think that Travis Kelce's upside. I mean, you see, as soon as Rasheed Rice came out of that game, Travis Kelce started getting targeted, and he started putting up numbers like we're used to him seeing. So I think he's a good person to keep on your bench, maybe watch him for another week and see where the production goes, and I have faith in him. All right, thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Crash Talk Fantasy. We will be back next week. Thank you.